In review, we have our top effects layer, which we can toggle on and off, and that applies a texture over on top of the logo. The next we have the logo that we can double click, and it's a smart object and we can be able to change it and apply it. We also have a t-shirt color that we can go ahead and change at any time. And that is clipped to the base layer, which is just our little t-shirt that we isolated and cut out of a photo. And now we have the bottom layer, which is just a square that we can go ahead and change the color at any time. So when you zoom in, let's say you took a photo yourself or you're working with another photo, when we applied this, went ahead and clipped this just orange square down to the t-shirt, it also clipped this little tag. What if we want to change and put our own brand name on the tag? We're going to do that right now. Let's go ahead and zoom in and see how we can do this here. What we want to do is we could take the pen tool and trace around here, or you could just this is a very, very simple tag. I might be able just to use the polygon lasso tool and go ahead, just kind of select some very basic shape here. Don't get the shadows are going to be fine. Just go ahead and get the tag itself. The pen tool might get a little bit of a better selection, but we're just doing something really quickly here. So I have that selected. We want to get maybe our paint bucket tool here. We want to create a new layer. And we're going to name this tag, and we're going to make it white. And we're going to do the same thing here that we've done over and over, is we're going to duplicate this texture, this base layer right here, this t-shirt. We're going to duplicate it. I'm going to right click, duplicate, or you can use the keyboard shortcut, Command J. So duplicate layer, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to move it on top of our tag layer. So I'm moving this on top of the tag layer, and then we need to clip it to just the tag because we don't want it to appear on anywhere else but the tag. You hold down Option, I'm going to go all the way. You look like you can't clip it, but you got to go all the way to the bottom of all those filters, and there is the little clip. So we're just going to clip it, and now you can see that it only has the tag clipped out. So just to kind of review, this is the extra duplicate, so I'm just going to call this tag effects, which is all that's doing is adding the texture on top of the tag. And there's the tag. That's a solid shape. So this is kind of those moments where it starts to get a little busy with layers, so it's really nice to go ahead and put all of these in folders. So we could go ahead and select both of our layers that deal with tags, and we could go down here and just put it in a folder and call it tag. So it just kind of helps you kind of organize all these extra layers that you're going to be working with. And this can go into t-shirt. Call it t-shirt base. And of course we can right click and label any of the smart objects that we can edit. So right here we can double click on the logo. We could even title this change logo here. So we can start to see it kind of get a little bit more organized and take shape. So let's go back into our tag. What we want to do is we want to be able to remove all of this underneath. We don't want to have that brand, we want to put our own. And we also want to use smart objects to be able to place our own logo on there and have it automatically spin in the right direction and be placed there. So here's what we're going to do, is we're going to either need to clone this out, or we're going to need to use the content aware tools in Adobe Photoshop to easily clone this out. So here's our tag that we have on top. This is the tag right here. This is what we want to be able to manipulate. We are going to have to clone this out. We're going to have to use some content aware tools. So this is currently a smart object. It doesn't really have to be. All it's doing is it's given a little texture on top and it's just clipped to make that shape. So what we can do is we can rasterize this so we can be able to use the content aware tools. Because if I have a smart object on, I cannot apply a lot of different effects to things. So let's go up to adjustments. You'll notice a few things are unavailable if I have smart objects on. And we really want to do the content aware fill. So we're going to go up to edit, and you'll notice that the fill and content aware fill options are grayed out. You cannot do any content aware options on those. So we don't really need this to be changeable. It's just an effect. So we're going to right click and we are going to rasterize layer. So this is going to no longer make it a smart object. It's now just going to be a plain old image, no longer smart. But that's okay because we're going to be able to need those content aware tools. So I'm going to select just the type, just taking the polygon lasso tool and just lassoing this together. And let's see what the content aware tools can do for us. So I'm going to go to Edit, Content Aware Fill. So if you've taken my other classes, you've definitely used this tool before. And it's going to go ahead and take a sample of where it's going to fill it in. Oh, that's already doing a fantastic job already. What I can do is I can erase sample areas so it doesn't sample. It only takes samples from maybe just that white. So anytime you see the green, that's where it's taking the samples to recreate texture for this to fill in what you've selected. So we don't need to kind of take any of this orange with us because that's not part of the tag. We just want to reproduce that tag texture. So now it's just taking samples from this green area to recreate something inside. It's using an algorithm and it's helping us decide how to fill in that space to make it look natural. And we take away some of the shadows because I just want to take it from that sample. So good, it's like the tag was not even there. We'll click on OK. And this is kind of a case where if you want to use maybe a clone tool too. If you have an older version of Photoshop, you may not have the content aware fill options. Those became available, I believe, a couple years ago, and I can't remember what version, maybe 2017 and later. So if you don't have that, you can just do the same thing, make your selection, and it's a little bit harder, but you would get your clone tool and you just do manually what we did with the content aware fill. You'd make your brush really tiny. And what you would do is you hold down Option, and I'll show you the Windows keyboard shortcut on the screen. Click to take a sample, and then you'd be able to draw over it on here. And you'd have to go back and keep doing samples, sample, sample, and work your way down. But since we have the content aware, that was really easy. So now we want to add our own tag. So we're going to do the same thing we've done before. We're going to create a little object here. So let's create a shape using the rectangle tool, just like this, just kind of a long rectangle. This is going to be our new label. And let's name this change label here. This will be a smart object. So let's right click, convert it to a smart object. And now we can do what we've done with the t-shirt, but do it with just the tag. And we can double click here and replace the label with our own label. So let's create one really quickly. We can even just do it right here in Photoshop. Let's do example brand. It's going to hold down shift. I'm just going to click it right back to 90 degrees. So we have example brand label right here. We're not going to need the background. We're just going to need the text. Let's go ahead and make this text a dark color. Highlight our text, go up here, make it like a dark gray, and then we're just going to save it just like we have been, and it should automatically populate for us. And there it is. Of course, that doesn't look super exciting, so maybe let's kind of change the typography here a little bit. Let's make it all caps. We can go over to our character panel and just do a quick all caps. I just went right up here to this top option and did an all caps and center it. And so there's one thing we could do to make this way more realistic. So as you can see, it's kind of straight up and down, but the label kind of slightly curves to the left. So let me zoom out a little bit so you can kind of see how it looks. So there's example brand. We could, of course, put a little logo on there if we wanted to. So here's where we're going to learn how to warp things. And we're going to do this much more in the next couple of lessons. So I'm going to show you a quick example.